Our next in-person mastermind is coming up this fall, and we're heading to Vegas. We're kicking off this mastermind with an in-person tour at Zappos downtown Las Vegas campus, where you'll learn their strategies behind company culture, core values, employee engagement, and customer service. Looking outside the legal industry for business concepts and strategies allows you to gain fresh perspectives and innovative solutions that can be applied to improve and differentiate your firm's operations. Following the tour are the mastermind hot seats. Every attendee has the opportunity to dive deep into their business obstacles with their mastermind group and coach. We believe that nothing beats working on your firm in person, so join us in Las Vegas on November 7th and 8th. This is your chance to break through barriers, spark new ideas, and accelerate your law firm's success. Limited spots are available. Visit maxlawevents.com for full event details and to grab your ticket today.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
Welcome back to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. What's up, Jimmy?
Oh, just dealing with the joy of having a 21-year-old and 3 teenagers. It's lots of fun these days. You know, my mother-in-law always used to say, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. So it's funny how that has sort of played out.
It's funny. I've always heard that too, and it's hard to believe sometimes because it can be really hard when they're young. It can be really, really hard. It's hard to believe that it could get more difficult.
It's just different. It's more fun too. I mean, you have these little adults running around and you have these great conversations. And I'm at this stage now where my kids will say something to me that's actually pretty insightful about myself that I didn't recognize. So it sort of cuts both ways.
Yeah, that's the part that I think is cool, is like just seeing them grow and develop. It's just the coolest thing. And like I remember the first time I had like a quasi-intelligent conversation with Jackson, and I was just like, this is cool. Like I can actually talk to you now. Like we can actually communicate back and forth, and it's not just like, hey, that's a toy. it's more advanced than that. But so today we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about the most important parts of our work week, and 2 of those it's funny because they're the same for each of us.
Well, actually, I've changed my mind, and I now have one, so we don't match, but I can still chime in on yours.
Okay, very good. I like it. And then I'm waffling on one of mine because it's so new to me. You probably know what I'm talking about. I talked about on the previous episode, but it's so new to me. But it's so
you got to pick a different one because
really
you just
cool.
talked about that.
Yeah, I can't do it, but I won't. But I'm going to mention it at least, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the guild mastermind a little bit. So right now we're going to talk about, let's start with we'll go with our number 1. Okay. What is our number 1 most important part of our week? All right. So most valuable parts of our week. So I'll let you go first. I wonder if your number 1 still the number 1.
So my number 1 is definitely the 15 minutes I split up over the course of 5 days. I do 15 minutes every day for 5 days where I talk to my assistant and my personal assistant, and having her sort of leverage my communications with other people, my meetings with other people, clearing out my calendar, clearing out my email inbox. That time that I spend with her, it's like getting another 40% of me just by having her do a lot of the stuff that I don't want to do.
I do not have that on my list, but it should have been on my list. But that's why, making it 3, I'm gonna keep it at 3 though. We talked about, for those of you that have not seen it, go to the Facebook group, and we did a presentation on executive assistants. But it's extremely valuable because it really does. It keeps me on track. I can only imagine with you. You need to be wrangled quite a bit and reeled in, and so I'm sure that's keeping you on track. It would be a nightmare. It would be for me if I were your executive assistant. It would be a nightmare for me. It would absolutely be terrible. But I'm glad that you have one now, but that's really valuable. So my number one though is, I told you I was going to do like a more personal one. This one is, my workout, like getting my workouts in, and it allows me to get focused. Like, gets rid of that extra energy that I don't really need. It's that extra energy that, I don't know about you, it's almost like a nervous energy, but like once I've done my workout, I come to the office and like I'm just focused. But with that, so there's this new thing I've started doing and it's the cold plunge stuff. But so doing the cold plunges, there is an energy that lasts throughout the day that is just incredible, man. I cannot stress it enough. But I'm putting those two together in one because I usually do them, back to back. I'll do the workout. I'm actually still cold from doing mine this morning, but it is, for those of you that have not done them, I think it's really valuable. And those of you that have ignored your bodies and your health, please stop doing it. Like, take care of yourselves, because like that is really what dictates what you're able to do in your firms and for your families. So, all right, what's your number 2, Jimbo?
Well, before we get to that, I want to chime in on yours, because I had it on my list and then I took it off, and that's the exercise. So, I had ignored my body for a really long time, and I got really out of shape. And about a year ago, I made a commitment to work out cardio 45 minutes every day, and then do a little bit of weight training on some of the days. And so and I start off my day with that. So I'm at the gym at 5 every morning, and it really helps me. You're right. It helps me calm my mind and sort of sort things out. And unfortunately for you and Becca and Amra, my assistant, that's also a time where I like to send lots of texts, because that's when I have lots of ideas. So it really helps me get into a sane place. And plus, I don't get in the ice bath, but I do get in the steam room. And so I'm sweating for pretty much an hour straight. And I think that getting those toxins out really, really helps. And also, and the work I'm walking at a very steep incline, 45 minutes, my heart rate's up at about 133. And when I go for walks with people, I'm like lapping them. Like, I'm just way far. My kids couldn't keep up with me on walking. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Like, some of my favorite days when I go gym, sauna, cold plunge. And there's those extremes are just, it's a great feeling. But yeah, and wouldn't you say like your like just your mental acuity, your stress, all of that's changed since you started working out more?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my stress is still my stress, but yeah, I think I have better ways of dealing with it, and I certainly think I'm sleeping better because I'm using my body and I'm tired. Yeah, for my second one of my most important hours of the week, and I just did it yesterday, is my massage. So I get a massage for an hour and a half every Wednesday, or I move it around if I have to. But it's on my standing calendar on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, and I'm 53 and I'm tight as hell from all that damn time on the treadmill, and it's really, really helpful to move those joints. My massage lady just learned some new things where she's pretty much pulling and stretching on my legs and twisting them all around. And it's really, right just now thinking about it, like I want to yawn, because I just, you get that feeling when the muscles are getting the oxygen moving and things are sort of working themselves out. It's hard to beat that hour and a half a week. I'm hoping to do two massages a week at some point, but that shit is expensive.
Yeah, I do mine monthly. I don't do mine weekly. My massage therapist, she said there's no point in doing it more than once a month. So
I disagree with that.
I know, I'm sure you enjoy it.
And she's part of the sales prevention department then, if that's what she's telling you.
Yeah. Well, she's like, it's funny because my massages, they're not super enjoyable. They're like, she's like digging in there, but she just has a different approach. But you are right though. There's just for people that aren't doing them, 60 minutes is a waste of time. Do 90 minutes. 90 minutes is the way to go. And there's a bunch of benefits to them. So definitely recommend it. My number 2 is our L10 meeting. And our L10 meeting, it's an opportunity for our leadership team to get on the same page with things. It's our opportunity to see if there's any issues, resolve any issues, and move the firm forward generally as a whole. And it's an extremely, L10 is a term that we basically just stolen. It's from scaling up, but not scaling up. It's, what is it, Jim? Traction. It's from traction. But it's our weekly leadership meeting. So if you're familiar with traction, you're familiar with L10. We're more of a scaling up firm. Jim's is more of a traction firm, but it's a great opportunity, and we've trimmed ours down to it's 50 minutes. It used to be a lot longer. It's now 50 minutes, and we get in, we execute, and we get out. And it's a really beneficial time for our leadership team to get on the same page and move things forward.
So it's the one time during the week where everybody on leadership is dedicated towards working on the business, fixing things, as opposed to the triage or fires of the day. So yeah, you've got to be spending some dedicated time each week where you're actually moving things forward, fixing things, and sort of future focused, as opposed to living in that time of urgency. So yeah, that was one of mine too that I dropped so that you could use it. But that's definitely an important, for us, hour and a half of our week.
Love it. Well then, what is your number 3 then?
So my number 3 one, I thought about this for a while, and I think the third most valuable hour that I have each week is the time that I spend with my therapist. I think that I'm a complicated dude with lots of things to talk about, lots of moving parts in my life, and I think that the time that I spend with her is invaluable. And it sort of, I went yesterday. It's funny, my massage therapist and my head therapist are next door to each other, so I do it back to back, and so it's really great. You know how, like, I think our 8 o'clock show on Saturday mornings for people in the guild is so good because we just woke up. There's no bullshit at 8 in the morning on a Saturday. There's also no bullshit when you sort of wake up from a massage and go right into therapy. You're like, oh yeah, and you're also much more malleable and willing to listen, and it's a really good routine for me.
So you do that weekly?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it just seems like a lot, but that's great. I mean, clearly you're getting something from it, but that's what I think is interesting is when you start to dissect successful people, and what you start to find is like they spend so much time on their body and their mind, right? As opposed to the average person. Would you say that that's true? Like
yes.
But you're not, like, when you're younger, you don't think about that stuff. When you're younger, you think, oh, I just got to do the work, you got to do the work, and you ignore the fact that part of doing the work is taking care of your body and your mind. It's really interesting.
Well, and eventually, when you've been around for a while and your firm has grown to a certain size, then the actual work that you're supposed to be doing is the thinking about how to make things better. It's the bigger picture stuff, the visionary stuff, the stuff that doesn't involve grinding, but rather thinking. And so in order to have your mind and body at the best, I think you've really got to take time to rest and relax. And, it's when you get in that ice bath or get in that steam room and you actually let your mind sort of wander and think, that's where you're best.
Are you tired of the marketing guessing game? Does your website feel more like a digital billboard than a client magnet? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. And it's time to stop the uncertainty and start getting real results. Let's talk about your marketing spend. Are you just shelling out money every month and crossing your fingers? Do you ever wonder what impact your marketing is really having on your revenue? Well, it's time to take the guesswork out of the equation with Rise Up Media. We've been working with them for over a year, and the feedback from our fellow members has been fantastic. Rise Up Media is here to take your marketing to the next level. They'll even perform a full audit of your online presence, giving you the good, the bad, and even let you in on what your competition is up to that you're missing out on. And the best part, there's no obligation, no catch, no pressure. If you decide to work with them, their contracts are month to month. That's right. No long-term commitments tying you down. So what are you waiting for? To learn more about how Rise Up Media can transform your firms, visit riseupmedia.com/MaxLaw, and Rise is spelled with a Z. riseupmedia.com/MaxLaw.
Best ideas come from.
Man, I'll tell you what, my mind does not wander much when I'm in that ice bath. I'm focused on the clock, and I'm like, when that timer goes off, I'm out of here. But the sauna definitely, oh man, it's all over the place. So for my third one, I'm gonna go with my weekly CEO report. It's a video that I put out every week at the same time.
This is interesting.
And it used to be a written one. Yeah, it used to be a written one. It was more complicated for me to do because I would have to sit down and write it out. But this one, now I do it via video, and I it's basically my talking to the firm about what I've got a form I used to fill out, but now it's a sort of a script I go off of where like what I'm thinking about, and it could be whatever topic I've been thinking about for that week for the firm, and then after that I go through anything that's new, so any new announcements, and then anything from the leadership team that I need to tell people about, and then I go through the numbers for the week. So I go through new cases, I go through Google reviews, through checks that we've received, any errors we had when it comes to systems, and then there's like 4 other things, or our current caseload, and then I can't remember the other 2, but our other 3, but
Probably a section on how cool Jim is, I would think.
Absolutely. That is absolutely what it is. But yeah, but I go through those, and it's basically an update on the health of the firm, essentially. And I think it's pretty valuable.
Now we're going to segue into another topic, and that is, what is a mastermind, the power of a mastermind, and sort of how has the mastermind served some of the members of the guild and us as law firm owners. So Tyson, why don't you explain to people who might not know or know the concept of a mastermind, sort of what is it? Yeah,
so what it is, it's the first time I was ever introduced to it was through John Fisher's mastermind. I had no idea what it is, and I had heard the concept before, but I'd never really been to one. But it's really what it is. It's about synergy and really wisdom and shared goals. And it's really about, getting in a room and you're open, you're vulnerable. You tell other law firm owners what you're struggling with, and then other law firm owners that are in the same room with you that have been there before or that are going through the same things that you're going through, they help dissect that issue and then help solve the problem. Is really what it is. And they do that through a lot of asking questions. Sometimes they will ask pointed questions. Sometimes they will give you the advice that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear. And, we've seen quite a few breakthroughs over the years by doing these. And the reason why we do it 4 times a year is because it's an extremely valuable thing for members to do.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the masterminds. I've always gotten things out of it, like you said, by hearing the advice that other people give. But, it's such an interesting dynamic. I mean, you're again, we talked earlier about, working on your business. So these are law firm owners who are willing and able to step away from their firm for a Thursday afternoon and an all-day Friday to go and share and listen to other law firm owners talk about the issues that they're trying to overcome. Those hot seats are powerful when you're, quote unquote, on the hot seat. You're going to go for 5 or 10 minutes about what's bothering you, and then everyone's going to tell you how dumb you are and how you need to think about this and that. And then for me, I'm taking a ton of notes because you can hear things from people who have a law firm that's a year old. You can hear from people who have a law firm that's 20 years old, and you'll get great value out of that. But for me, the real value of the mastermind comes from when I tell other people what they're doing wrong, because invariably that is something that I need to hear. I tell the story about one of our mastermind members who was talking about, I just want to sign up cases and bring in as many cases as I can and then let everybody else figure out how to deal with all those cases. And I really got sort of indignant at that person, and then I realized that person was me, that's what I was doing. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to grow at breakneck speed, not give any real sense to capacity and to, how much the team could actually produce. And so that really struck me when I was telling him how dumb he was, when really I was talking to myself.
We're big on confidentiality, so we're not going to mention any names or anything. But there was a member in one of in our group where he is struggling because he runs the firm, but he wants to get back into the litigation and wants to get back into trying the cases, and he's sort of given that stuff up. And it's interesting because as I was giving my feedback and asking questions, I was kind of thinking like, this is something that I struggle with. This is something that I've been through as well, and I think we came up with a really good plan for him to pivot and get back into the courtroom like he wants to, because like that's where his passion is. And I think it's absolutely okay to pivot and shift where, like, you have a vision for something and you figure out, okay, that's not quite where I wanted things to be. I want to shift, and my vision's changed a little bit, and that's great. But I think that there were a lot of great breakthroughs that he had that's going to allow him to fulfill that true vision that he has for what he wants out of his career. And I think there's a lot of great breakthroughs. But to your point, though, it was interesting because as I was hearing him talk initially, I'm thinking like, oh, I know this exact struggle, and that is you're right. That's how it is. Sometimes the advice you're giving is the advice that you're really telling to yourself.
And the concept of a mastermind comes from Napoleon Hill, which in his book Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the power of the mastermind. That, in other words, it's the collective. I always tell people at the beginning of our time together, I was like, this is the one time where the 14 of us or the 16 of us, the one time we're going to be together, this particular group, and it really is the collection of all those minds thinking really hard. When you're done with those days, it's like sitting through depositions all day. It's like you've been doing intent listening and hopefully, chiming in here and there. It's not for the faint of heart, but I when I think about masterminds, I think about a couple of quotes, which are, you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. That's something that I think really comes through, that if you're in these rooms and you're talking to people and you're trying to succeed, then you're really not with people who are losers or people who are just Debbie Downers and those kinds of people. The other quote that comes to mind when it comes to the mastermind is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. So we all have something to learn. Tyson and I always come away from the mastermind learning things about our particular law firms that we can either it's during the actual hot seats, and then the other thing that I should mention is that, to me, some of the best value out of the mastermind have been those offhand, sideways conversations with people, the dinner after, the lunch during, the breakfast, talking to people, and you never know where the next best idea is going to come from. So if this is something that interests you, you should think about joining the Guild, because you have to be a member of the Guild to join. And our next mastermind is going to be in Miami, and I'm looking it up. It's on Thursday, October 19th, and Friday, October 20th. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've already got a fairly good number of sign-ups, so we might have a couple of extra groups, but we'd love to have you if that's something that interests you. I think it's going to be a great one. The one we just had in Denver was certainly well received, and there's also that sort of clarifying of just getting away, resetting, and just sort of having that ability to come back fresh with new ideas. And one of the last things I'll say is that one fun thing that sort of happens after the masterminds is sometimes people come back and hire new people, and that's a great thing. And then sometimes people come back and fire old people. So there's just a lot of growth. It's really just thinking of it as an accelerated opportunity to make a big jump, as opposed to the daily or weekly innovations and improvements, which are also important. This is just another way to do it sort of on a faster pace.
Or, like another member, they were going to go back and fire a long-term member, and that long-term member ended up resigning. So it was they posted in the group the other day about that, so which I thought was really interesting. It was going to be a really difficult conversation for the.
I missed that.
Yeah, and so it was a big thing. Like, one of my favorite parts, though, and then we'll wrap things up, but one of my favorite parts, though, is where the accountability part, where someone will say, well, okay, you're saying that you said this 6 months ago at another mastermind. What are you going to commit to? They'll pin them down and say, okay, are you going to do these things? What are you going to do? And I'm going to, and it forces them, because they said that they were going to do these things. They didn't do them. And now they're holding their feet to the fire. Or they'll just, before it even gets to that point, they'll hold their feet to the fire before that, and they'll make them make that commitment, which I think is fantastic. That's one of my favorite parts. But you're right, though. The dinner sessions where you're like afterwards, like, hey, like, I thought about that a little bit. What do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Those are always really good. But all right, Jimbo, let's wrap things up. If you do want to join the Guild, you can go to maxlawguild.com. If you are interested in our mastermind in Miami, that's where the next one's going to be. Go to maxlawevents.com. So, and if you're interested in both, you can just go to maxlawevents.com and you could join and get your ticket at the same time. All right, Jimmy, before we get to our tips and hack of the week, if you all would give us a 5-star review, we would greatly appreciate it. It helps spread the love to other law firm owners. By the more Google reviews you get, the more likely that the podcast channels are going to be willing to show us to other members. So if you'll do that, we would appreciate it. All right, Jimbo, what is your hack of the week?
There is a river of content ideas passing you by every day, and you haven't been paying attention, you haven't been writing them down, but in every conversation you have, whether it's with a paralegal, a client, another lawyer, you are being presented continuously with content ideas. You might not have the glasses on to spot them yet, but they are there. And when you pay attention and write them down, you will have a never-ending supply of content ideas. I refuse to buy this idea. I don't know what to talk about. You know exactly what to talk about because you talk about it all the time. And if you don't know the answer to a question that somebody asks you, go figure out the answer to that question and then make a video about it. If someone has that question, someone else does too. So you do not need to buy a book or hire someone for content ideas. Just pay attention to what goes on each day and find a way to record it.
It's figure-outable, as Jim likes to say. It's figure-outable. I like that one. So mine's a fun one. I think you might like this one. It is YouTube Transcript Extractor Chrome extension. And so you can, yeah, exactly right. And so it's a Chrome extension. You could be watching a YouTube video, and if you want to extract that transcript, it's not just yours, anyone's YouTube video, you click a button, and it'll give you two options. You can have a summary of the video, or you can have a transcript of the video, and it is really, really cool. I recommend it. YouTube Transcript Extractor Chrome extension. So if you go to you've got Chrome, this won't work in other browsers. But if you do have Chrome, just go and get that extension and add it to your browser. It's pretty awesome. So that is my tip of the week. So Jimbo, good talking to you.
Thanks, brother. Good stuff.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.
Before you go, have you heard Jim and Tyson talk about the Guild on the podcast or in the Facebook group? If not, you're missing out on some really exciting things happening with Guild members and their law firms. The Guild includes a community, accountability, trainings, group coaching, and in-person events like our quarterly masterminds. Inside, you'll gain support, tap into a network of connections, and continue learning, a common theme among successful entrepreneurs. Investing in a community is like the self-care of business ownership. Surrounding yourself with other people who get it is crucial when you're creating a rock-solid foundation to build your business on, one that's strong enough to withstand setbacks, transitions, and growth. So head to MaximumLawyer.com/the Guild to join now and get started today.